Okay, hello. This is Cassandra Danhof, and I am going to be going over my lesson for the 5E natural selection, specifically the variation lesson, or the first lesson in the unit. And it starts with this title screen, which is Why Do We Look Different? Something that kind of gives a hint at what could be going on without using the direct vocabulary, as well as having the title slide for all of the slides, the TEAC 7.11c variation, Miss Danhof Spring 2020. We're going to start with the engage part, which is a can you spot the difference sort of activity where we have a female on the right and a male on the left, and we're going to ask our students, can you spot the difference? So look at this photo with two different people in it. Work in your science journals and make sure you write down the date, have the page number, and title and engage. I decided to have science journals so that I, in the end, could look at everyone's science journals to see, as well as having the formative assessment throughout it, could check on each of the individuals' progress in their science journals with all of these activities. So there's their science journals. They'll write down the page number as well as the title engage. And they will have 1 minute to write down everything they observe that is different between this female on the left and this male on the right. I will not wait that 1 minute, I will just move on. Then I ask, what did you observe? Once I asked what they observed, I will give them a little bit of what I observed. Of course, I will ask non-volunteers to give me some ideas on what it is, but since we do not have any volunteers, I will just move on. The person on the left, or the female, is a female with brown hair, blue eyes, and is white. Those are some of the variations that I saw. And then the person on the right is male with black hair, brown eyes, and is African American. Now, one thing that I wanted to point out to the students was that they were all the same species, so that I asked them what is the same, and they may say that they are both humans, and that is what I want them to discover. So let's explore that idea more. Everyone in the class is a little different. They might have different eye color, hair color, even different earlobes than the person sitting right next to them. So they will work in pairs in their little groups that they have in the classroom. They will work in pairs with the person next to them to complete this activity. And each pair will be given an exploration guide passed out to them. On there, they will determine the characteristics. We will determine holistically the characteristics of our class later. They will have 10 minutes to do this activity, and once they are done completing this assignment, they need to make sure that they do all of the things that they need to do to put it into their science journal, such as writing the title Explore in their science journal, taping the exploration guide into their science journals, and making sure them and their partner's name are both on the exploration guide, and just emphasizing that the person who does not have the exploration guide taped into their science journal write that they are in the partner science journals, and also emphasizing that they need to have both them and their partner's name in order to get credit. Now I will exit out of this slideshow real quick to show you the exploration guide. Just downloading it real quick on my computer. Okay, and this, normally I had the different exploration guide, explanation guide, whatever I had uploaded onto the track site as just the answers, but since this is very variable and based on whatever their and their partners had, I felt like it didn't really need an answers guide, but I will just go through what the exploration guide has. So basically with the exploration guide, they are working in partners and they are basically evaluating what's different and what's the same between them by answering these basic questions about their anatomy. So the first question is, do your earlobes hang loose or are they attached to the side of your head? That is a genetic thing that most of the time they are loose instead of attached, so that might be something that is similar between them. Is your hair curly or straight? That could be variable. Can your tongue curl or not? That one would be a fun one to discover for the kids. See if they can do it or not. And then finally, if they had light colored eyes, blue or green, or dark eyes. And this is just all dependent on the student at hand. Okay. Now I will go back to the slide. From current slide, yes. Okay, so we've already seen this slide right here. So I'm just going to skip through it. Now, what did you find? Let's see. I'm asking them if they had a lot of characteristics that matched the person next to you, or if they were a lot different, and I elaborate more on that in the other bullet points by asking to raise their hand if they had at least 3 characteristics different from their partner. They raise their hand, or they don't raise their hand, depending. And then raise your hand if you had at least 3 characteristics that were the same. So everyone should raise their hand at either one or the other, because there are only 4 different characteristics on the exploration guide, so everyone is involved in it. So each of these characteristics you discovered are known as traits. They should know what traits are. And then I ask them what other traits they think humans have, and get some non-volunteers to ask the questions. Again, since we do not have non-volunteers, I will just move on with what I gave as examples, which is the color of their hair, the texture, as well as if it's straight, wavy, or curly. Then I ask, what do they think might be the reasons humans have different traits? Or what do you think might be the reason humans have different traits? I'll ask a little bit around, and then I give my own questions that might help them carry this idea along, such as because we come from different places maybe, or because we have different parents from one another. They can give their own ideas off of those questions. And then we go to the idea of genetic variation, which is a difference between individual organisms or a group of organisms of any species caused by genetic differences. This was the definition that I saw on, I believe it was Merriam-Webster, because there was no exact definition for this genetic variation on any of the standards that I saw, so I looked at the most reliable resource I could. Variation can be observed through external features, such as the color or texture of your hair, referring back to the last slide. And these genetic variations are based off traits that come from parent to offspring. I asked them to write down this definition of genetic variation in their science journal under the title Selection Explain, so that they have this definition in mind. Now they can also write down the topic of their science journal entry, genetic variation, so that they have what the whole 5E was about. Now, let's look at some other examples of variation. We have plants, some apples, specifically the Wolf River apples, and I ask them I say that this is a species of Wolf River apples, so they are all the same species of apples, and I ask them what they observe is different between one apple and another. And at the bottom you will see that I ask them to write down genetic variations they see in Wolf River apples and peppered moths, which I will get to in a second, in their science journal under the category Explained. So I'm having them write down what observations they see between one apple and another, and I would also have them do a think, pair, share as well to see if their partners may have had another idea.